Well, hello people, and welcome back to part 9 of Kokomo, our Cities Skylines 2 build. Hope you're having a wonderful day. On our current quest to envelop the rail yard, the developments from last episode have given Kokomo a real sense of sprawl now as the Mark grids begin to take place, and super happy with the amount of detail we're also able to cram in as well, thanks to CS2's vastly expanded base game prop library and the draggable surfaces functionality. Turning out to be one of our most detailed projects yet, I think, and today we're going to be working on the north side of the rail yard so we can continue to envelop it with our first specialised industry, some forestry, which are going to disguise mainly as a lumber yard, but also make it functional for the production chain as well, alongside developing our first interchange as the decouplet system in this area passes over the highway for the first time. But welcome back to Kokomo, everyone. Happy Wednesday to you all. So the last time we were over here, we left this couplet system down, which is going to evolve into an interchange, which I think is where we'll get started because I want this road to go somewhere that's going to hold the specialised industry on it. So we'll come into parallel mode with Anarchy on so we can pass through tile boundaries. And it's going to be this drivable, well, walkable road up until a point, and then I'm going to switch to highway roads. Just because I'm building an interchange, I want the functionality of the highway road system here. So we'll draw it straight out of here. Let's come up to 5 meters. And then we'll come up to 10 at our peak elevation. Thinking in terms of grander scale plans as the couplet comes back down. Not entirely sure yet. I imagine possibly swooping in this direction to hit another interchange. Which would then actually be able to take it to the coast, which would be good access for them to get essentially to the diagonal side of the grid. And then maybe another interchange along this couplet system that takes them that way. So, but that's future Egg's problem. That's deep into tiles we don't currently have unlocked. And then I just want to give some basic slip system roads to this thing. It'd be a bit of a cloverleaf sort of system, I suppose. So just some basic slip ramps coming off the highway. Pretty much it's a third of a cloverleaf, I suppose, isn't it? But it should do alright for us. The road's not too busy just yet, of course. Once it's surrounded by city, that might be a different story. But for right now, there are a few people. Hopefully we'll catch one here. Yep, there we go. So this is what I really want, right? This industrial access down to this area. Which I think would be really handy. So to carry on growing the road out here, we'll grab a couple of tiles, which will pretty much complete the district of Saratoga here. Yeah, we're pretty much at the boundary now. Now, a couple of episodes ago from the rail yard build, we also had this arterial here as well, which I think will connect to the couplet system. Really got a lot of room to get the road under there, have I, which is ideally where I would like to send it. Well, let's upgrade that into bridge, and then we'll let the road go underneath it, I think. Probably not going to be enough clearance, but again, we've got to move it so we can adjust that. It's actually not too far off being alright, I think. And then a road that connects to this arterial is also going to be welcome. So we could do a super node here, but I think I'm just going to add a little turn point. We'll have one there, and then which is pretty much the same what we've been doing down here as well. We'll do another one, let's say another 400 meters down the road. heading the opposite direction. And then this can come straight up and into said arterial structure. And I'll probably do the same here again, and then we can use this as a kind of demarcating development boundary for the lumberyard, which will be the main focus of today's build, I think. We're also in need of workers across the city as well today. All the industry here is complaining of not enough labour, alongside a few businesses, mainly industrial businesses, really. I wonder if there's any correlation to that with education level, is there? It's only the industry that's complaining. And then again, I suppose some of the commercial down here, but that's not enough customers, isn't it? But either way, more people, be it labourers or customers, are required in the city, so I think we'll also do a bit of a low-cost condo estate here just off the edge of the industrial area. But let's start out by getting stuck into our forestry. So I mentioned at the start of the episode, I want this to really function more as like a lumberyard rather than where the trees are being harvested and cut themselves. But I still would like to include these buildings so the economy is functioning. So we use dirt roads, or gravel pretty much, for the entire lumberyard. I actually wonder if we put a cul-de-sac on a gravel road, does it turn to concrete? No, it doesn't actually. Okay, that's good to know. So I'll place down my forestry main building here. And then it wants us to draw out the space for harvestable resources, which I'm going to have follow the road, which looks something like that, which of course has no harvestable trees in it. So we'll have to place our own. I could go for a bit of a palm plantation, I suppose. We stick these on a lower fill with a younger age tree, maybe just simply young, a little bit less than that. So we could just go this route in terms of giving actual functional forestry area. Even if there isn't particular forestry, you could sell it off as, you know, some sort of botanical business. An actual fruit and vegetable plantation if you wanted to go down that route. Although, sort of leaning more into farming there than forestry, I suppose. But doing it this way, we'll at least be able to start producing some amount of lumber for Kokomo. Okay, so that makes the forestry business functional. It's actually still increasing in tonnage per month. So I'm guessing that's just the building reading the trees we've just placed, I think. Cool. So I'm happy with that. And I might do this in a few places around here, maybe. As if the wider forestry area is, you know, covering this whole portion of northern Saratoga. So also maybe here again. And we're going to keep that palm row going. And feel free to do big rows of pines or conifers. You know, there's a million different bits of forestry installations around the world to take inspiration from. And I guess this could possibly be a palm oil plantation, couldn't it? But I don't know what trees palm oil actually comes from, if it's just any palm or a particular palm. Obviously not very good for us, but for a city's build, it'll do. So I'm going to do the same thing again. The opposite side of the street. So once they start to repeat, you can really get a sense of the idea of what they start to bring to the build. Loads of dirt through here, quite a big mountain brush. Oh, we can actually paint over the texture of the trees as well. That is quite handy, you know. Might actually save a little bit of sand for that, but this whole area basically is going to be dust, grime, dry grass. There's industry, there's machinery, there's dust. It's not a particularly pleasant area of the city. With the sand brush, let's bring this down. Much lower percentage. And have most of the sand under this palm plantation here, I think. Again, look how much easier access that is for the highway for them, right? Rather than having to head back down the cobble system and fight the usually awful traffic of Saratoga down here. Which I'm actually quite surprised how quiet this interchange is. I thought this would be getting a lot more use, but... And the ramps we put in the other episode? Oh, we actually had some great suggestions from you guys. I left the zebra crossings on from last episode. Clown. Egg. There we go. So now they should only use the pedestrian overpass here. Good spot, everyone. Honestly, sometimes, like, I know the blind YouTuber thing is a bit of a meme, but there's something about when you're recording, you're just completely blind. Either way, let's search for logs, which of course is going to give us a whole bunch. We can actually just search for log pile. That'll filter it even better. So these these big ones, alright, are the ones we want here. So a really important visual of today's build is to going to have all this pre-cut log action, and we can stick this on a fence fill, it'll work fine. And especially in the view of those cargo trains, lots and lots of stored wood is the visual we want. We'll do a few rows of these. We can use move its marquee. Just pull these in a little bit. So isn't that immediately just such a cool compliment to the rail yard to have the log piles there? Really starting to generate this visual like industrial wasteland, aren't we? Which is super cool for sitting next to the rail yard, I think. Especially when those cargo trains are moving past. Very tidy indeed. So the logs over by the track are going to carry on, and are of course just aesthetic detailing. Let's not place too many, but if we place down some forestry storage, which again will come up via a forestry search and find it, there's tons of different shapes and sizes here of them. I'll place, let's say 5, and then let's use the Better Bulldozer mod just to trim off all the fencing. Again, as always, I'll tend to do my own fencing around the whole facility. So because they're forestry yards, the raw resource will accumulate here. And then let's have a look what some fencing along the side of this development can start to look like. We'll go with something wooden, probably this one. And we'll run it pretty much against the road. All the way down to the interchange, I think, pretty much. We'll have it there. And then here again as well. Just leave a little bit of a dusty corner open on the road there. I'll show you what we can do with that. And then I'll have something else sit in the crook of this interchange. What I would like to do, especially what you're seeing a lot in Florida, is in the crooks of the interchanges, so all this area here, there's a lot of just kind of like generic random industry. And then that can just join with the chain link fence. That boxes off rail yard. And then over here, let's go quite harsh with stand and whatnot. Do it through here too. And then we'll just have some nice little dusty street corners. A couple of different palms here too. And then just a little dash of the preset overgrown brush. There's lots of bush and shrubbery. I have to say I'm incredibly happy with this whole industrial side of the city. I think it's such a contrast to the relatively luxurious waterfronts of Saratoga over here, isn't it? I'm really liking how the city's contrasting. It's almost an extension of that big dusty rail yard, isn't it? Really happy with how that looks. So filtering through some forestry buildings. Oh, there's another signature. Part of a ball factory, which is actually maybe perfect. Let me just glance at that. I was just looking for a building to fill this exact space, and has that just unlocked at the perfect time. And I think we certainly have to have it here, don't we? And again, the world of Better Bulldozer is going to massively open that up for us, especially with the fencing. So what's this actually doing for us? It's taking wood and turning it into timber, which is exactly what this area is designed to do. And that's a great compliment to all the detailing we've currently got there as well, isn't it? I have just noticed the texture, which I don't think I want to bring across the whole area, because I'm quite happy with my sand and dirt, to be honest, but I'll give it a go anyway. Just see what we think of that. Now, our dirt and texture does show up through that surface, but it just looks a little bit saturated, doesn't it? Like it's wet maybe, which I don't mind really with the Florida theme. But yeah, I think we'll keep that in then. And then I can probably complement this, I think, with some more buildings. Extra processing. There's a little bit of a side entrance there, so I think I might actually push that up to the top. And then I can do some detailing here as well. Now let's definitely have some of these logging trucks packed up down here as well. Maybe some of them I do have the truck cab on them. Yeah, just a couple of trucks here. And we could even get really tasty with the snap to surface tool. Is give them their own delivery. We're really getting into it now. Just if you want to start detailing the load on truck beds, but mods give us the possibility for it, apart from that one which just landed, unfortunately, on top of the truck. I don't hate that at all. Let's keep embellishing the site with more fencing as well. Let's keep the same fencing throughout, I think. I guess this delivery manufacturing processing area can remain entirely separate from the log yards themselves, essentially. Okay, yeah, I think that particle board factory is pretty much made to be here, isn't it? And then we can just draw in all these log piles to fill it in to various different extents. I wouldn't mind actually seeing workers walk through here by exploring the wonderful world of invisible pedestrian pathway. And there's currently a fence blocking, so we'll find a way to open that up. And probably place some more industrial buildings over here. That way we have a reason to force them down. So people can walk up the side of the palm plantation. And then alongside it, they'll go through the yard. Yeah, I can't imagine it'll get an awful lot of use, but if I can simulate workers maneuvering around the various piles of logs as the trains go past, I'll be very happy with that visual, I think. And maybe you can go off over there. I'm not sure exactly what's going to fit in these districts. We are approaching some quite awkward land through here, really. I might just leave it overgrown, dusty rail belt as it approaches up the interchange we made earlier. So, we'll see, anyway. All future eggs problem, of course. And then we'll get some more dirt up at the front of this too. We do also have actual pedestrian pathways around, which I would like to continue. Let's do something like that. And then also down here as well. And then we'll bring that nice forestry fencing to form the next boundary. And then when we do have an entrance into the site here, I think a little sign, which there is quite a few of in the game. Yeah, I think this one here, one of the park variants, is what I want. Just, you know, as a bit of a warning, you are entering like an active industrial site by walking down there. And as those log piles begin to establish as well, we can create quite a convincing theme there, can't we? So I'll be happy with that. And essentially do that on all entrances into the log yard as well. So we'll have another one over here where we'll discuss the addition of another processing building just so that pathway can become as functional as it can. Let's say here. And then I'm quite keen on these corrugated green roofs. Might even do a little bit of fusing here. Make sure we copy the colour scheme over it so they're all uniform. And then we can have that pedestrian pathway cut through. And then continue to detail up the entire side of the forestry district here. But let's keep our tall fence also moving. And then just a bit of tendril brush. Sand and dirt to demarcate where the pathway is being well trodden, etc. Carry that on through there as well, just so I know there's an invisible pathway moving around that area. But that gives us two functional forestry buildings, producing 4.6 and 7.17 tons respectively. All of which will now feed the particle board factory as well, which is rising in efficiency and making a profit too. Does this have an upgrade? It does, but we need to produce 10 times the amount of wood goods. Well, that'll tick over this episode, I think. And we can probably get that as a sub-building, I bet. Yeah, it's this building here. Let's just have a look at it. Okay. Wood veneer production, I'm not really sure what that is, but the building does fit my build theme. So let's have you over here, because this is just a sub-building. This is essentially a prop when I'm placing it like this. Yeah, I'm certainly not against that. So we'll finish the detailing off in our time-lapse, essentially just a lot of wood. But let's turn our attention toward some more low-rent housing condos so we can provide the labour that people are so desperately needing around here. So I think for our low-cost condo complex as part of today's area, I'm going to go, what a surprise everyone, Egg is using Southwest assets again. But these Southwest apartments I think can do us quite a nice condo vibe. With plenty of fusing to be had. It will also look quite nice from the frontage perspective here as well, won't it? Just off the couplet system there. Get lots of trees between there too. But let's give these guys a road. So we'll have... This is quite an important road, isn't it? And that's just down to that one over there, which is also connecting into the interchange road, isn't it? This is likely to change. I'll probably remove that connection and make a bridge. And if you want to get back on the road, you can use the couplet system essentially. It's going to connect all these new roads down to the arterial structure. So let's just move E3 out of the way for right now. And then we'll have a road come in. And we'll put a little roundabout. That just indicates, you know, you're now in the condo complex. I'm going to use a little one-way road to line up with the grid here. And then we'll have quite a few parking roads in the complex, not always one way. I'll only use the one-way roads if we actually are using just the one-sided parking here. And then we'll do these condo blocks in stretches of 3. So we can actually get them flush in a perfect block. And we get lots of palms around here too. Especially around the entrance into the complex. Okay, and then we can just keep that modularity running for as big as we want to take the condos. Also, again, because it is so modular, we can just expand this every time we get a medium density population demand. Yeah, so these are already pulling households in. We can see, however, where they're walking. So we absolutely want to give them a path back to the couplet system, which will also cross the road as well. Right now, a condo wouldn't be complete without a pool either. So let's have a little look at our options here. Yeah, we can get the community pool. I can totally envision the community pool asset itself just being enveloped by a lot of these condo designs. Do we want to have another entrance in? I think we will. Send that down there. The lake will form something else. Although the condo complex I'm taking inspiration from actually has a water in it. But I will use this for something else. Now let's totally wrap up the community pool with roads. And then we'll get a nice condo fence in, maybe this one here. And then this can run alongside our arterial. And it won't fill up this whole square. I don't want it to get too big, so I'll use that parking road there as an excuse as to where our condo complex can come to a close. So Google Earth, always an immense point of inspiration for how to satisfy any type of housing demand, really. Yeah, so that's exactly the vibe I wanted here, right? These frontage apartments with parking out the front, fence between arterial road and actual development itself. I think we'll have quite a lot of fun with that. Whilst we are developing industry, is there anything we need to develop in terms of garbage collection? No, I'm reluctant to place the landfill sites because they tend to be quite horrible. And we've still got a lot of processing from the one just across the arterial in Saratoga anyway. But otherwise, I think we've got the skeleton structure of 2 builds here. Hello, you're driving through the rail yard. Suppose I don't mind that. They don't usually do that, which is quite interesting. Since we made this, they've always gone on the outside. I wonder why that's changed all of a sudden. Okay, either way. Yeah, so let's get some detailing, finish off the log yard with lots of log-related props, crates, essentially taking inspiration from what's on the particle board factory. And hopefully we'll get the upgrade for this as well. What are we currently on now? Yeah, only another couple of thousand has passed there, so I'll leave the simulation running. See if we can get that. Then also finish off our condo complex with more apartments, parks, and the general condo lifestyle of living. As we wrap up a bit of a combo build today. We'll grab yourself some snacks and we'll be right back with Kokomo detailing time-lapse. Alright guys, let's have a look around the woodland and forestry lumber yard of Saratoga now, shall we? A note to how this is blended in with the rail yard. Possibly my best ever blending of two different builds, to be honest. I absolutely adore it. And there's new signage and a new company in Kokomo, Hollywood, or Oilywood, I suppose. A bit of a weird one to say that, isn't it? But the signage is present across the site. Truck and service detailing all around the prop sub-building here with logs, log loaders, and plenty more log details across the yard. You can see where I've left that well-trodden path as well, which I really like how that cuts through the yard. Unfortunately, no one has used it yet, but one day, once they do, I will consider Kokomo complete when we see a worker walking through this vast lumber yard here. Which again, with the views to the rail yard, just absolutely adore this bit of the city. Down here, more processing, cul-de-sacs, fencing, prop work behind, log trucks ready to go, smaller vans. I went with some tanks here, perhaps storing of some sort of biofuel. You know, maybe they're turning pellets into, you know, just recyclable fuel over here or something. But general liquid bulk storage, I suppose. And then the signage also appears again on the entrance to that footpath, which then cuts through back out up to the current barren highway areas. 3 more fields I went with over here, with gravel parking also present as well. And these things are producing for us. We'll have a little look. We've got 5.1 tons there. We'll also check out the production economy as well. So we're starting to produce much more of our own lumber now, or at least wood. And then lumber production itself is still in quite the import deficit, but at least we've made a dent into the raw resource coming in here. So that will continue to improve with further forestry builds, but lots of palm plantations. In fact, I'm not even sure if Florida is a producer of palm oil, or if palm oil is even produced from these types of palms. I have no idea, but it is now. And then this is all fenced off, just to demarcate each individual field and its relevant building. A little bit of square brush surface painter here, with 100% strength of sand, and just to create a little workers' prop yard in and amongst all the production here, which comes out with fencing back to the dirt road. A little cul-de-sac on the entrance, with more signage on the way into the site. The buildings down here, we've pretty much eaten all of our industrial demand today. In fact, the city is actually having more worker problems down here, whereas these ones were solved. So we've just moved the problem down the street, essentially. So big residential expansions are needed in the coming episodes, I think. There's pretty much no commercial, industrial, and very little office demand actually left in the city. Here, more prop work we did in the episode. That pretty much wraps up the Lumberyard district. Again, there's more parking here, but until businesses move into these lots, because they're all currently empty, it will eventually start filling with timber, but not until there's a business in there at least. So that'll continue to grow, and of course store and go up and down. That's why I prefer to use these functional storages for these builds as well. Because, you know, it'll get piled with wood, that wood will be moved on, and it'll come back in and go up and down, like physically. The actual stockpile of wood will move. So that'd be nice, I think, once that comes in. And perhaps the current best visual in the city is the cargo trains moving past the log yard, isn't it? Big fan of that. Great stuff further down here, expanded against the couplet system. This is all office zoning here. Lots of workplaces down this couplet as it heads towards the highway interchange, which he's not going to use. I thought that garbage truck would go down there. But they're actually using this arterial. Let's get back over to the rail yard, or the front of the yard over there at least. And then down here, interchange, small bits of use. I'm also aware that Cypress Highway is not connected to Franklin Highway here with this Clover configuration. That's okay, I don't mind. They're going to have further interchanges down here, and they can also make that turn down here as well, which this junction will change because it's a little bit tight for a national road here. But I'll make sure that that right turn off Cypress Highway does remain because the interchange isn't servicing it. But beyond that, again, it'll be pretty quiet. It doesn't really go anywhere. But another nice little service number for us. I don't tend to really do clover leaves that often, but it just sort of fit the space here, didn't it? Including that bush in the road. Let's get rid of that. And then down toward the condos, there's some more southwest medium density, again desperately trying to provide workers and customers. Same thing here as well, more southwest apartments on the road. Parking behind them, and the low density sprawl continues with parks, which have been surface painted, trees added to them. Office and commercial through here, expanded the back of the commercial lots. And so all this is just prop work out through the back of these. All very tidy, really nice way to fill out the back of your commercial. Drawing up the surfaces as if there is a back entrance here. And then that continues up into the lake, which will definitely be a more, I think, metropolitan town centre design here. Another spot of services and commercial and place to visit the doctors, nice park area and whatnot. As we essentially develop this chunk next, which I think we might work on in the next episodes, and this whole area. So we can bring Saratoga to a close and bring more people in. The condo complex has settled in really nicely, lots of repetitive building action, some nice detailing with roundabouts and fences and surface painter at the front. There is a one-way system flowing here. If I bring up the road tools, you'll see it. So that brings people in. Remove the parking off a lot of these roads with some grass lining. Also dropped in an office as if this was, you know, a lettings office if you want to apply for one of the condos here. And it actually spawned in as bendy letters, which I realise is probably a newspaper, but for lettings, it sort of works. So I'm quite happy with that. And then there's also a single commercial building present on site as well. You know, a place to buy cheese, chopsticks, chicory and chives within the condo complex without having to leave. And then there's various different parking elements around the area. It all links together with some parks and expanded cafe detailing for the condo residents to enjoy. The Cocamanian sun, I suppose, is the word. And then a little bit of northeast down here again. Older industry, or older commercial, opposite the industry is always quite nice, isn't it? And then detail the back of these out. Made them more historical, of course, so they won't change. And then dropped in trucks, containers, cones, boxes, barrels, tanks, barrels, whatever you need, really. Always a lot of fun to detail the back of those commercial spaces. And then again, that low density sprawl will continue to give us our vast mark grid crawl, again with parks dropped in occasionally just to keep everyone around here happy. But that pretty much does it for our first specialized industry using the mods in CST. An awful lot of fun. Again, just such a big fan of how this industry is blending into the city. I feel like I'm doing a much better job of it than I ever did in CS1. A huge shout out to the YouTube members and patrons bankrolling these videos. If you want to get involved in that, links to Patreon and Instant Gaming are below. Let me know what you think of this, and indeed if I missed anything out of a specialized lumberyard forestry build that can help satisfy our production chains. Either way, enjoy the cinematics and I'll shut up and leave it there. Let's thank you all so much for watching, and as always, enjoy the rest of your day.